All right. Hello. Welcome back to another episode of Football and High Heels Present. I'm your host, Sammy, and today we're finally discussing football for once. Shocker. And today I have my good friend Matt with me, who is a Giants super fan. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Yeah, so tell me, what made you decide to become a Giants fan? I mean, we're both from New York. Actually, we went to high school together, and you married one of my best friends from college. Small world here. But yeah, there's a few different New York football teams. We have the Bills, we have, of course, the Giants, and we have the Jets. What made you go Team Giants?
Just kind of born and raised a Giants fan. Although I will say the Bills are probably the only real New York football team. Our team likes to play in New Jersey, but cheaper rent.
True, true. Yes, I actually like the Bills as well. In fact, last year I talked to Bills player Marcus Thigpen for an interview I did, and it was amazing. And I think they do have potential. They're one of the underrated teams in the NFL. But we'll get to them more in a little while because they did play the Giants in the preseason game. But before we get to more preseason stuff, I want to talk about this James Harrison thing. As everybody knows, I do live in Pennsylvania now, which means all I hear about is the Steelers. And this whole James Harrison thing has been a huge topic among me. In fact, I discussed it on my friend Brian Crawford's show, The River's Edge, on Friday. Are you aware of what's going on with that?
Yeah, basically he's in an all-out feud with Roger Goodell at this point. It almost is coming down to basically Roger's all-out power, but PEDs, it's no good.
No. But my thing is, if he has nothing to hide, why doesn't he just take the test? I mean, I have to take drug tests for my jobs. I work multiple jobs, and each one of them requires me to take a drug test. And I see no reason why he can't just be like, if I'm not guilty, I'll take it and just be done with it. Why cause all this drama?
Well, I absolutely agree. I have to do the same thing. The problem I think here is it basically comes back to the last CBA where it gave Roger Goodell all-out power. So it really doesn't matter if he passes a drug test, cooperates, doesn't cooperate. Unfortunately, Roger Goodell can do pretty much whatever he wants. He can even listen to his own appeals. And those two have been butting heads for years. So he's an easy target for him. He's not the only player involved in this whole thing, but he is the one that has been calling out Roger for years.
It's absolutely crazy, but I hear that they are trying to work something out. I heard breaking news actually before we went on air. Let me double check my notes here. He has a meeting with the NFL on August 30th, and he is willing to meet with him on live TV, and he claims the PEDs were never taken. So, but I also hear if he doesn't do it, he will get suspended or a possible suspension, which honestly, I think is justified because if you're not going to cooperate, then you shouldn't have a job. I mean, if I pulled that kind of stuff on my job, I would be fired. So just cooperate, dude. It's not that hard.
Absolutely. He should have learned from Tom Brady.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And I hear Tom Brady. Is it true that he's suspended again? I mean, I keep hearing conflicting stories about this.
He is suspended, is being held up. Court's favored in Goodell's side, but that's just basically, again, because of the CBA. He can make his decision, and he doesn't have to have a third party look at it. He can see his own appeals. The Steelers, interestingly, were the only team that actually voted against all of this power going to Goodell, and happens to be the team that Harris plays for. So,
we'll see what happens.
Something.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. I'm curious, and now that I wonder how the Patriots are going to do without their precious boy Tom Brady, but we'll see. I could say so much, but it's not really appropriate for a family show. I'll tell you off air.
It worked out last time for them. We'll see.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do hear that the Patriots will be playing in the preseason against the Giants, I believe. Not this week. I think it's next week that they'll be playing. So I'm curious to see how they'll do with that.
Yes, week 3 they're facing the Jets, and 4 they're finishing up with the Patriots in what's always pretty much a meaningless game, but it's become, it's just something that they do every year.
Oh, yeah. I watch the preseason. Like I said, I'm a football newbie, like everybody knows. I basically just started this whole thing because one of my friends was making fun of me about my lack of football knowledge, but I'm learning. And the preseason just seems like a kind of, not exactly a tryout, but basically practice for the upcoming NFL season. And sadly, our Giants lost their first 2 games. First one to the Bills, like I mentioned before, and then the other one was to the Miami Dolphins. And I was just like, really? The Dolphins you lose to? I don't want to bash any teams because I'm supposed to be remaining like Switzerland, remaining neutral, but really, Giants? Come on now.
Well, the positive thing about that is that it virtually means nothing. Most players don't take it overly seriously. It's more like an extended practice. Really, it's more of a revenue thing for the league. They can charge people for tickets and sell all their goodies and the food and make money.
Exactly. It's a moneymaker. It's practice. So I won't start worrying until they start playing the actual games, which begin on September 11th. And they'll be playing in Texas against the Dallas Cowboys, which, considering all the memes I see on Facebook, it doesn't seem like a lot of people are Dallas Cowboys fans.
They are a polarizing team, extremely popular from their success in the 90s and very little success in the playoffs ever since.
I noticed that. Yeah, I don't know what happened. I guess once Emmitt Smith went bye-bye, the whole thing started going downhill. At least that's what I noticed. But
they lost all their Hall of Fame players, and it's been run by Jerry Jones and run into the ground for pretty much.
Exactly. It's been crazy, but we'll see. They do still have a cult following. At least they have their loyal followers, but we'll see how they play this time. And I am curious. I know that the Giants are most likely going to win, but we'll see what happens. But they're playing a lot of interesting teams this year. So what do you think? Have you looked at the lineup yet?
I have. You know, the Giants are always one of these teams that could either be the bottom of their division or the top of their division. It's actually fairly easy to say that they could be a Super Bowl contender or they could be second or third in their division. They probably won't be last. There's it's a very tough division, no matter if the teams are top teams or not. They are a very even matched division, but it will be interesting to see how things shake out. There's a lot of new players on this roster.
Yeah, I was looking at it, and Victor Cruz is actually coming back. In 2014, he left after 6 games because he got hurt, and he didn't play at all last season because of another injury, and apparently he was injured again but cleared to play. So do you think he's going to make it through this season, or do you think he's going to get injured again, or his injuries are too bad where he's going to end up bowing out?
He is probably the ultimate wild card on their team. If he is healthy, combine him with Odell Beckham Jr. and their rookie Shepard, they could have the best wide receiver core in the entire NFL. But then again, we haven't seen the salsa dance for years, and went from a knee injury to a calf injury to, I believe it was a hamstring this last time, and you almost have to expect the worst and or plan for the worst and hope for the best. And, if they can get something out of him, it'll be great. But they got to really act like he's not going to be there.
Exactly. And it's a shame because he does have a lot of potential. He is a very wonderful player. I've looked up things he's done in the past, and he is very good. It's just a shame that he keeps getting hurt. But Odell Beckham Jr., that's another great player. What are your opinions on him?
He is a fantastic player. He is most certainly one of the best wide receivers in the game. He is the key pretty much to their offense.
Yeah, absolutely.
Their passing game.
Oh yeah, absolutely. He's definitely their biggest secret weapon. Well, not so secret weapon, but he's absolutely what they need. And I hope he continues to do well. And knock wood, he doesn't get hurt too. And he continues with the momentum. Now, have you seen the whole roster that's come up for this year? And what do you think of the new players that were drafted this year?
I think this is one of the strongest drafts in a very, very long time, actually. They got 3 guys coming on in that are going to be impact starters right away. They have a running back that they drafted late that could be a 3-down back in the future. They have a possible tight end that could be a starter in the future. Those guys more project for the future, and they got a hard-hitting linebacker. This is a very strong draft for the Giants.
Yeah, like I said, I'm very new to this, so this is actually one of the first drafts I actually watched and followed continuously, and I'm absolutely shocked with who they chose, and it's going to be interesting, and I love how they do it. And did you watch the NFL draft this year?
I do. I don't like the format now. They have them. They have it spread out over 3 days. Used to be an all-day marathon before the internet, where you'd write down every single pick and order and everything else. Now it's instant gratification online. But they spread it out for, again, it's money making. It's a huge money business. So they spread it out over a number of days, and it runs pretty late. So most people don't follow pick by pick any longer. But they did it. They did a very good job this year.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm very happy. First of all, because like I said, I'm in Pennsylvania now. I live right by Penn State. So we do have a couple of Penn State players in, which I'm absolutely psyched about. And it just looks like we've got strong players all around. So I am extremely, extremely happy about it. So, yeah. And what do you think? What other teams do you follow? Do you just follow the Giants now, or?
I mean, I watch a lot of football. Giants are most definitely my number one team. But interestingly enough, I love the Steelers. I love their brand of football. I love the Green Bay Packers. I like very traditional teams.
Yeah, that's what I like, the tradition of football. I mean, we don't see it as much anymore. It seems like it's just evolving so much. But if we go back to basics and watch it, like you said, the Steelers and the Giants, it's just watching it is so fascinating. And now that I'm learning more about it and I semi understand what's going on, it's gotten even more fascinating and interesting for me.
Yeah, it's quite the chess game. Most people just think it's a bunch of dumb brutes banging heads, but it's really not. Most of these guys are extremely intelligent, especially the linemen tend to be very, very intelligent. And, it's very interesting, especially nowadays. They have so many sub packages going on and stuff. It's not as simple as just lining up and having the guy go out for a pass. It's not backyard football anymore.
No, no. And how do you think the Giants have evolved from how they are now to how they were in the past? I mean, I'm not sure how long you've been watching football for, but how do you think they evolved?
They've evolved a lot, especially with the newer age rules in the NFL. It's very pass oriented. That's where Ben McAdoo, their new head coach, comes in. He comes from that Green Bay system where they throw like crazy. Eli's numbers over the last 2 years with him are the best of his career, despite him getting older. So he projects up to go even higher, which is fantastic for the Giants fans.
Definitely. Now, do you think this is Eli Manning's last year? I mean, as we know, last year his brother won the Super Bowl and retired right after. Do you think that Eli is going to follow suit and retire, or do you think we have a year or two more left with him?
Honestly, I think we have many more years of him. He is getting up there in age. He is the Iron Man of football, though. He hasn't missed a single game. That's really the key. Sometimes those guys stay healthy for a long time and they get one injury and they're gone. So basically he is the key to, as most teams, if you lose your quarterback, you're in trouble. It's a very quarterback-driven league. But if the Giants can keep him upright, he can stay around for a while, especially in this system.
I hope so, because he's he's a great player, and like you said, the quarterback is the glue that holds the team together. And I think out of all the games I've seen, he's one of the best quarterbacks of all time. So I hope he stays for quite a long time.
Yeah, I certainly hope he does as well. I grew up watching Phil Simms play for the Giants, and teams don't realize how important franchise quarterbacks are until they don't have one. Giants paid a huge price to get him, but he has completely revolutionized their team. He won 2 Super Bowls. He's already paid us back in spades for what they sent for him to get him.
Absolutely. So I can't wait to see what he has in store this season. What other players do you think we should watch out for this season?
They're really the rookies are the guys who really get you excited. But also, I mean, their new additions through free agency are huge. I mean, they actually just signed Leon Hall, veteran cornerback. He's going to pay dividends. He's going to play the slot for them on defense, and it allows Eli Apple, their big rookie, to go and kind of step back and be a fourth guy, which is great in today's NFL. We play a lot of like dime and nickel packages, and they got Nick Harris, Snacks Harrison, defensive tackle. They got Olivier Vernon, defensive end. Janoris Jenkins, their cornerback, coming on in. So they added a lot of talent on defensive end, a lot. However, there's also a lot of turnover, that means. So there's certainly going to be a learning curve as well.
Definitely. And tell me a little bit about these rookies. I'm not very familiar with them. What do you know about them?
All right, well, Shepard is a wide receiver. He's a second-generation NFL player. He looks fantastic. He's been a star in OTAs. Darian Thompson coming right on in. He's going to start at safety. He's doing a great job, communication. Eli Apple is he's the first pick for the Giants in the draft. He might be the least impactful of the three, ironically. Like I said, they have two huge starters, and now they brought in Hall. And Apple, in college, you get away with a lot more contact. Apple played with his hands a lot, can get a lot of penalties in the NFL that way. So, fortunately for him, he has a lot of great players in front of him to learn from.
Oh yeah, I think that if he follows through and he listens and he keeps wanting to learn, I think he has a lot of potential. And I think these rookies, even though I'm not very familiar with them, I think they do have potential too. And I'm curious to see what they could add to the game, especially since they're playing against such strong teams this year. Like I said, they got the Giants, the Saints, the Steelers. Who do you think that they have the potential to beat, and who do you think that they need to really work hard on in order to beat?
I gotta be honest with you. I don't worry about the rest of the teams in the NFL. I think they kind of take care of themselves. You can't really project who's going to win what week and whatnot. You don't know what injuries are going to occur coming off of bye weeks and whatnot. Really, they need to worry about their in-division rivals. Mainly, probably the Redskins, who won the division last year, and added a great cornerback that is a big rivalry with ODB. So they go back and forth and talk a lot of smack. We're going to see what happens on the field.
Definitely. And what else do you think the Giants can do so they could step it up? I know you said that they do have a strong team and everyone seems to really bring their A game, but still, what can they do to bring it to the next level, so to speak?
Honestly, probably their biggest weakness is their offensive line. Now, unfortunately, that's a huge, huge factor in the NFL. Their left side looks really strong, but their right side, their right guard, right tackle are pretty weak. John Jerry, starting guard, not so terrible, but Newhouse, their right tackle, very poor starter. He'd be a strong backup. He's a poor starter, and unfortunately they struck out on signing a lot of guys who would have started in his place. It's the one spot that they didn't do a good job of seaming up in the offseason, and we're going to see whether or not that comes to bite them in the rear or not.
And do you think there's going to be any more trading if they fail to do so for next year's team, or do you think they're going to keep them, put them in more training so they can improve? What do you think they will do, and what do you think they should do?
Well, I think that they should immediately replace him, to be completely honest with you. The problem is there's just not guys out there to really sign. Will Beatty, who was their franchise left tackle, and they cut. He is out there. He's supposed to be healthy, but he didn't exit in a very good way, and it doesn't seem like there's really going to be a rekindling relationship there. And it doesn't really seem like he has the skill set to play on the right side anyway. And after that, there's some old guys, some very hurt guys. There's just not a lot of options. So they're almost in a grin and bear it stage at this point. They're going to have to see how Newhouse does. They'd really ideally like Bobby Hart, who was a rookie last year, to step up and play, but he hasn't been able to take the starting job from him yet. So I wouldn't be surprised to see them manning the right side, and Eli's going to have to watch himself.
Oh yeah, but why haven't they been able to get this rookie to play? Was there a problem? What happened with that?
Oh no, he is number one on the depth chart behind both of them, actually. To the best of my knowledge, I know he is a right tackle, and he filled in last year at right guard as well. But you know, he was a 7th round draft pick. These guys aren't always big, impactful guys. You know, he's young, he's learning. Maybe next year, hopefully this year. But so far in the preseason, it's been the same old with the offensive line.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm really, like I said, this is a whole big curiosity party for me. So I'm watching I'm like a little kid just learning something, watching these games now. So I'm really curious to see what happens, and I'm really, really excited about it. And do you watch by yourself? I know you have a little boy that you love, that loves doing everything with you. Does he watch with you, or do you just watch by yourself? Tell me about that.
Well, I probably watch more by myself than I do with him. He will watch. He always finds out which team I'm rooting for. He has a really good tendency of rooting for the other team. Uh, but he asks me which team we want to win, and he has a good time. He likes to get involved with whatever I'm doing. So I hope to bring him to a live game this year. That would be fantastic.
Oh, absolutely. That's actually now on my bucket list to see a live NFL game. But yeah, maybe we could all go together. I mean, I would love to go with you guys and have a good time, but we should try to arrange that. But speaking of, the reason why I asked you is I noticed that football has become a huge, huge family thing, not just with people playing like we had the Manning brothers up against each other, but coming together as family and watching together. Is that something you've noticed? Because you said you grew up watching the Giants, I am assuming with your family. Do you think that in a weird way that football brings families together?
I absolutely do. You know, the good thing about football is it's pretty straightforward. Even though it's a very complex game, even the most novice fan can understand they're trying to get to the end zone somehow, no matter if they don't know how they're doing it. They understand when they're on defense, they have to tackle the guy with the ball. In that aspect, it's a fairly simple game. Whereas you watch baseball and there's a lot of downtime, there's a lot of standing around. There's not a lot of scoring, you're falling asleep. Basketball, you understand they have to score, but there's so much back and forth. So football is a family sport. It is a team. It is a sport that usually you pass down the team that you like to your family, that you embrace it. And it's also one that, if somebody's rooting for another team, it's okay to sit in the living room and yell back and forth and bust on each other about who's going to win and everything else, and cheer and yell and have a good time as a family. It's definitely a great sport for people to go and watch together.
Yeah, I've always noticed that, and I think that is one of the reasons I became such a football fan, because it does bring family and friends together. I mean, even though we have lots of debates about it, I mean, at my job, I mean, we have, like I said, I'm in Pennsylvania, so it's Steelers versus Eagles, and the oddball Dallas Cowboys fan or Bills fan thrown in. Not that they're odd, but in the area I live in, it's like you're either Eagles or you're Steelers. But it's always fun watching the debate and hearing the absolute passion for it. But like you said, do you think that's the reason, because it's of the way the football game is posed? Is that why people are so passionate about it, or is it just because it's just one of those things that brings people together?
I think it's one of those things that I think almost every kid has been in the yard and thrown football around. Lots of sons have been outside with their fathers for generations, throwing the pigskin around. It's a fun sport where you can tailgate together. The whole family is there. They're basically having a barbecue, and then they get to go inside and have entertainment. It is definitely a major get-together sport for everyone. And especially, in the Super Bowl, you have people that have never watched football in their lives. They're excited about the Super Bowl. It's a national pastime. It's amazing.
Oh, absolutely. I think the thing that the Super Bowl, there's something for everybody in there. It's like if you're not watching the game, you're watching for the commercials. If you're not watching for the commercials, you're watching for the halftime show. So it is literally something for everybody there.
Absolutely. I mean, there are debate shows and review shows just for every little aspect of it. Who had the worst commercial? They're almost as famous as the one who had the best commercial. The halftime show gets more talk than sometimes the game. So it's very interesting.
Oh, I know. after this year's halftime show, I'm sorry, I love you, Katy Perry, but I was not a fan of the whole halftime show. I'm sorry, I feel bad, but not that she's watching this, but you never know. I do feel bad. I didn't like it, but how do you think the halftime shows have evolved as time went on? Because we seem to be getting the more popular people, whereas I've noticed in the past it's been people that are just starting out or just starting to gain their stride in popularity. How do you think it's evolved?
I do think it's evolved. I think almost to a detriment. It's become very, very commercialized. So now they go and they sign somebody that has a big following, is very entertaining, and they have to toss another star in there almost to buffer it. What if somebody doesn't like rock and roll? We better get this R&B singer. We got this rapper, but rap is really controversial, so we have to cut that off with a country star. They really try to cover demographics instead of just saying, look, this is what our show is going to be. And do
Exactly. Yeah, they don't do it the way they used to. I mean, I'm not saying it's right or it's wrong, but I noticed there's a lot of changes and a lot of controversy. I mean, Beyonce, anybody, that controversy was absolutely crazy.
Absolutely.
But I understand where they're coming from, though, why people were so upset about it. But I guess it's people artists also want to push the envelope to get either their agenda going or just to see how far they can push it. And honestly, I don't think that the Super Bowl is the time or the place to do that. I'm there to see the football, I'm there to see the commercials, and I'm there to see the halftime acts perform. So.
Absolutely. I don't understand why political statements need to be made at any of these things. But I will also say that I think it's kind of irresponsible of the NFL not to know that this is going to occur. These acts do practice their show beforehand. How do you not know that these things are going to happen one way or another? Now, there shouldn't be any wardrobe malfunctions or political statements being made or anything else. Especially the NFL, they want everyone to be happy. They don't want to alienate any customers. They don't want anybody talking about, oh, did you see this? Did you see that? They just want to entertain you and keep you glued to the television so they can sell commercial time and leave it at that.
Oh, absolutely. And I hope that this year for the 2017, 2017, I hope for that halftime show, there's no controversy. There's none of that stuff. It's just a halftime show, fun. Like, I remember the last good halftime show, there was no controversy, no nothing, was when it was NSYNC, Britney Spears, and Aerosmith all performing together. That was just one great big performance, and that was it. No politics, no wardrobe malfunctions, no nothing. I hope we can go back to those basics and just have a fun time.
It would be nice. It would be nice. It does seem that they like the controversy, though. You almost wonder if they look for it. It does get people talking about their product.
Yeah, I'm beginning to think they do it on purpose now, just to get people talking, because if there wasn't, then we wouldn't be talking and we would just forget about it. But, still, what is it, like 15 years later, we're still talking about that Janet Jackson, Justin Timberlake wardrobe malfunction.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you know what? It got people listening to Justin Timberlake all of a sudden. He was a star, but that basically boosted him into being a mega star. And Janet Jackson didn't need any help with that. She had already been that for years. So, it makes you wonder when these things occur, whether it's thought out by some or not.
Exactly. Yeah, I think it could go either way. I mean, I think sometimes they do it on purpose, but I think sometimes it's just the way it is. They have to do it in order to get their name out there, to get the attention. But
Sure.
Anyway, who do you think you should be in the halftime show this year? I know supposedly Adele was asked and said no, but then the NFL denied asking her. But who do you want to see?
I gotta be honest with you. I don't know. They've burnt me out on halftime shows. I'm almost to the point where I don't even want to see one at this point, because it's games. Like all the things that we've stated, I'd love to just have a show and just watch it and enjoy it. Instead, there's always something. And to me, I'm watching it for football. I don't need to worry about who's doing what or who they're inviting or who's popping up out of what floor of the stage, who wasn't announced. I just hope that whoever they get is classy and does a good job. Remembers the words, even if they're lip syncing, and gives you a good show. And then what should happen is the second half should start, and you should be like, they did a good job. And then don't worry about it. Forget who it was, because you're there to watch football.
Exactly. Yeah. Like I said, I really don't have a preference on who does it this year. In fact, I'm just showing my age here. I don't even know who's popular anymore. I'm thinking of all the 90s old school acts that they could bring back for a reunion, but I have no idea who's even popular anymore, so I can't even comment on who I want to see. But you're right. I just want one show real quick and then just go back to the football. And of course, the Bud commercials with the horses, because that's what I live for.
Of course. Got to watch for the Clydesdales.
You can't have a Super Bowl without them. And actually, I was really disappointed this past year because the commercial seemed so blink and just you miss it. That's the one commercial I was looking for, and I felt like it was a blink and you miss it. I had to go on YouTube and look it up to make sure it really happened.
Yeah, and what was interesting is I know a lot of my coworkers are very much looking more forward to the commercials than they do the actual game. And some of the highest rated commercials and whatnot, I didn't even see them. I don't know where they were. And I saw every commercial there was. Maybe it just went by me. I don't know.
Yeah, I think a lot of them were released beforehand, and that's how they became so high rated, because I missed a lot of the ones that everybody was talking about too. And the ones that they did show during the game that I did see weren't very memorable this year. I have to say I was disappointed in that. So I hope that the commercials this year are better so we can keep talking about them.
Absolutely. It seems like the ones that we keep talking about are either extremely bad or really inappropriate.
Oh, yeah. And like we still remember the ones that from back in the day, like the What's Up commercial and the 9/11 Clydesdale horse commercial. Of course, we all remember. And that was the only time, in fact, that commercial was played. Now, those are the ones we remember because they had either special meaning or it was just some catchphrase that took off. So maybe we can get back to that so we can keep talking about them and remember them.
Yeah, it's pretty sad when there's such a huge following of them and they're forgotten so quickly because they weren't very good. You know, you'd think that these companies are working on a new concept right after the last one airs. They put a lot of money into this time. And sometimes you see the commercial and you're like, okay.
Yeah, I was like, that was it?
Right?
Yeah, exactly. I don't want that this year. I'm hoping for much more, and we'll see what happens. But let's get to talk about who we think is going to make it into the Super Bowl this year. I mean, I know we're only in preseason. I don't know how much of the preseason you've watched, but based on what you've seen so far, who do you think is going to make it into the Super Bowl? Well,
AFC. I unfortunately only have one team to name, and that's the New England Patriots. As much as
killing me here.
I'll only be really happy about that if my Giants play them because I know we own them. It makes no sense. Eli Manning is nowhere near the quarterback that Tom Brady is, but he owns him. But until the day that Tom Brady and Bill Belichick are gone, they have to be the favorites to go in the AFC. That being said, the NFC is much more competitive. Carolina Panthers just played there. Very young and athletic team. Coach Ron Rivera, fantastic coach. Arizona Cardinals are a really complete team. They're probably my favorite for that side. And you can't mess with the Green Bay Packers. Aaron Rodgers is the best quarterback in the NFL. And the NFL is run by quarterbacks. So those three, I think, are the strongest candidates to represent the NFC. Obviously, I hope that my Giants prove me wrong and are the representative. But like I said, their team can either not win the division or be in the Super Bowl. You really can't tell. It really depends on how the team gels.
Yeah, I think so too. I'm like, I'm killing myself for saying this too, but I think it's going to be the Patriots too because they, like them or not, love them or hate them, they are the strongest team in the NFL, it seems like. And Tom Brady, whatever everybody thinks about him, he is a fantastic quarterback, and I can't take that away from him. So if he comes, I know he's suspended, but we'll see what happens with the first 4 games without him, and then if the team improves when he comes back. So I'm curious to see how that's going to come into play. But yeah, I have to agree with you there. I think they're going to end up making it into the Super Bowl. But I think actually we're going to have to watch out. And this is going to sound totally random. We're going to have to watch out for the Bills because they seem to be doing really well in the preseason. And they were really strong last year with Rex Ryan. And then they kind of teetered off. But I think now that Rex Ryan is hitting his stride, I think that they do have a chance, and they might be a wild card team to make it.
Well, for Rex Ryan's sake, you absolutely better be right. This is kind of a make or break a year for him, and I actually like Rex Ryan. He has way too big of a mouth. He is far too boisterous, but he is a very good defensive coach. So I do root for him to do well, and quite frankly, the Bills are no threat to the Giants. So I hope that they do well, and especially they're in a division where they get to mess with the Patriots, and I'll always root for that.
Yeah, all of us.
Right. So, and it's amazing how we do that because they were such a poor team before this whole run started. They've been on such a long run. They've made haters out of everyone, and it's really just out of jealousy because Belichick has been a great coach, and Brady is a phenomenal quarterback. They have a great system. It seems like they can plug anybody into that system and keep winning. But it would be surprising, very surprising for me if they were not the representative over there. They are the best franchise in modern-day football.
Yeah, and you can't take that away from them. Like I said, it's like either people love them or hate them, but you can't take away that they're the best. I mean, we both like the Giants, but I have to admit that give credit where credit's due. What can I tell you?
Absolutely. I mean, it seems like nothing matters as far as what obstacles in front of them. It wouldn't even be surprising if they went 4-0 without Brady, honestly. I know Jets fans are sure hoping that they don't, being such a big rival. But, I mean, 3-1, 4-0 without him would not be surprised. And I'll tell you what, anytime that something happens to the Patriots, they come out like gangbusters. I mean, Tom Brady being suspended, I think that most of us were like, good. They've gotten away with breaking rules many times, and this is more of a punishment, like you didn't cooperate with us, and we've let you off the hook so many times, so it's almost like a cumulative punishment. But Tom Brady being out for 4 games, he's going to have a phenomenal year. I have no doubt of it. Wouldn't be surprised if he was the MVP after missing a quarter of the season. And that's incredible to say. I don't know how many players you could say that about.
I can't think of any you could say that about. I think he's the only one that could actually get away with that. So we'll see. And I actually, after the Super Bowl ends, I am almost betting like last year, we're going to at least have one Super Bowl star and one NFL player again on Dancing with the Stars. I don't know if you and Devin watch, but I watch every time. And it seems like every year after the Super Bowl, they have at least one NFL player on. Who do you think would actually be brave enough to take on the ballroom?
You know, I would not be surprised, not one. But I know that Odell Beckham Jr. was asked.
Yes,
He
I'm so
apparently said
disappointed.
no, which I'm very glad he did. You could use him to concentrate on football. But speaking of the Giants, I wouldn't be surprised if Cruz had a good season and came back and was healthy. He would instantly be a huge star again, especially after such a big time lapse. Being that the salsa dancing is so big for him, I would not be surprised one bit to see him on there. He is kind of comes off as that type of guy that would like that limelight. But it is very interesting seeing NFL players on there, especially wide receivers and running backs. Running backs especially have great feet. They translate very well to dancers. That's why they do so well on there. That's why Emmitt Smith did so well on there.
Yes.
But you notice there are no big linemen on there. Invite one of the fat guys. Give the fat guys a chance.
That would be really interesting to see. But I think just fan base alone, that NFL players do so well. I mean, I think there were like, I want to say at least 10, if not more, NFL players on, and they all made it at least to the top 3. I think the only one that didn't make it very far was Lawrence Taylor, and because Lawrence Taylor.
Well, he's an old man.
Yeah, so, and we won't get into that controversy, but yeah, he had only, actually, but even him, he made it to sixth place. So I think they all make it pretty far. So I think it's fan base, and it is the fact that the types of players they do choose for the show make a huge difference.
Certainly. I mean, the thing with the NFL is that these guys are popular. And that's another reason why, despite the fact that those guys, they translate best to dancing, the wide receivers and the running backs, they have big names. So if you're not going to get a quarterback, those are the guys you're going to have. That's why you'll never really see a lineman. More than anything, it doesn't matter if the biggest guy in the world was the greatest dancer. It wouldn't matter. Nobody knows who these guys are. The best center in the league, probably 90% of the NFL fans couldn't name them. So you're going to see wide receivers and running backs, and that's okay because at least those guys are in good shape and they can dance.
Absolutely, and I'm curious because they're making the cast announcement, and there's probably going to be no football players on this season, but we will in a few months have the next season begin. So I'm hoping we have some good players. I'm hoping for a New York Giant just to represent New York and, of course, the Giants. So we'll absolutely see what happens.
Absolutely, as long as it's not Eli. He's a little goofy.
He might be fun, though. Actually, I would love it if they would get him and Peyton together in the same season. It'll be the first time brothers playing up against each other, and I would love to see that rivalry that was on the NFL football field translate to the dance floor to see what happens.
I'm sure they would love that. That would be very marketable for them.
Absolutely. We'll see if that happens in season 24, so fingers crossed. That way we could have some more Manning brother fun.
Yeah.
But we are out of time. I want to thank you so much for coming on despite our technical difficulties. I had a blast with you, and I want you to come back throughout the season to keep discussing football because this is so much fun and it's been a huge learning experience for me.
Absolutely. It'd be my pleasure.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much. And my viewers, thank you so much for tuning in to Football in High Heels. We will be finally discussing football for most of the rest of the season. Thank you. Thank you, Matt. And see you next time. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.